Hello and welcome to the next episode of Why We Do It, the stories behind the stories in amateur sports. And we're back to our monthly Pentland Triathletes session. You can see the logo there. We have our monthly get together for a club. We have a bit of a live audience around us. We'll maybe swivel the camera to bring them in later on. But delighted to, and there's my automatic camera moving as if it heard me to bring in some of them into the shot. There we go. We'll try and bring that around so we don't have to put them in an awkward position for the whole time. We are delighted tonight to be welcoming one of our longest-serving Pentland Triathlete members, and probably the reason that half the members are members of the club, because you've been mentioned so many times as the reason that people join the club. Oh, Peter suggested it or told me to join the club. Peter, how are you doing?
Very well, good.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your notes that you sent through. Very short and to the point, but packed with information, because what I tend to do is highlight the bits that I want to talk about, and nearly all of it's highlighted because it's so compact and to the point. Before we get going with that, though, we are introducing this idea that we're asking all of our guests if they want to choose a free sponsor. You chose Guinness as your free sponsor. Maybe you can elaborate and tell us why you chose Guinness to be your sponsor.
It helps sore legs after triathlons.
Okay.
Recovery, purely recovery.
Nothing else, just
Nothing
the
else.
recovery. Yeah, okay. And hopefully someone from Guinness will see this, and you'll get a nice free pack sent through for the Christmas holidays. So a lot to get through. We're also chose the evening when we're doing our live recording that Scotland is playing Denmark. So that's on the telly in the other room. So there are people here saying, come on, get on with it, and let's get back to the football. So, but there's a huge amount of things to talk about. And I was blown away by the detail of different things I had no idea about. So we're just going to take it from the top, and we're going to run through it in the normal order, starting with some pretty interesting stuff around your school sports. So take us back to that and tell us what you were involved with at school.
Our school, we had school strikes particularly at high school, between 82 and 87 when I was at high school, and there was no help from school at all. The teachers weren't interested, no extracurricular activities, but we made our own. I did a lot of orienteering and cross country when I was in school. Pretty successful with it. Probably the most successful I've ever been in the sport was when I was younger.
So this was in the cross country.
Yeah, well, I did cross country for the region. I did cross country for Scotland, but my main thing was orienteering.
Yeah.
Loved it. So competed all over Europe with that. Represented GB, Scotland. There was a Scottish champion, British champion, national, Scottish and British relay champion as well. So yeah, that was
Which
my
is
thing.
unbelievable. Who knew that
Nobody.
any of that was part of the backstory? British, how many champions? You wrote British and Scottish, but you just listed what sounded like more.
No, British individual, British relay, Scottish individual, Scottish relay, and Scottish schools. So the thing was, I was a big gangly, what they call it in Scotland, a goon kid. I was a big, tall, 6'3" kid from the age of about 12 years old, and I could just run quicker than anybody else. Reading a map was a bonus, but I think it was the length of my legs probably got me away with quite a lot.
So I'm a little bit confused between the cross country and the orienteering. Yeah. Were you competing at both at this level?
No, I only did for Scotland with the cross country.
Only.
But the orienteering I did better with. I think it seemed reasonably easy to get into the team, and there was a big crossover at the time, so it was the same people.
Right. Okay.
It was Charlotte McFadden, who's now Charlotte Fleming, who lives in the village, was another one who's competing in the same squad. Okay. And if you're in one squad, you'd get in the other squad pretty much instantly. And
I reckon that obviously, as people have heard on this podcast a few times, I didn't grow up in this country, but I get the impression cross country is and has always been pretty competitive. So it couldn't have been easy to be competing at that level when in cross country in Scotland. There must have been some pretty quick people.
Yeah, it was good, but I mean, I stopped when I was 17, so I didn't go into the adult network. I started playing rugby when I was 17, so I think it started to become a bit trickier and a bit less fun and a bit more intense by then.
So why the stop?
I enjoyed rugby more.
All right, we're coming to that.
Yeah. Simple as that.
That's it.
It was a straightforward choice. You couldn't do the same thing. One, you'd be trying to lose weight and gain speed. The other one, you'd be trying to gain weight. And it's just a different sort of training. And if you wanted to go any further, it just wasn't compatible, really.
Yeah, that's really, really weird because I had a very similar scenario myself at school where cross country was my thing, but I actually really enjoyed rugby. So we'll talk about that quite a bit in a minute. But yeah, there was a clash, and I remember finding it quite difficult to decide which one was going to be the fun of the rugby or try and do more with the cross country.
Yeah, I mean, it was every single day I'd come home from school and go for a 5 mile run across the fields. My dad's a farmer, he's now a retired farmer, so it was every single day straight off the school bus, trainers or spikes on, and go laps of the field, figures of eight, and that was just what I did. And I continued that up till probably when I was about 30, 35 or so, when rugby injury started really.
So you were running like that still as part of your rugby?
I was, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never
yeah.
stopped.
Yeah, good. So that is extraordinary. And the orienteering piece, before we move on, how did you discover that in the first place, and how did you find it as a sport in general? Because it's not something not a lot of people know about.
No, it is a bit of a niche sport. It still is a niche sport. I was competing last Sunday at a cyclocross event, and I met a guy I ran against 45 years ago. I hadn't seen him for 45 years, and he went, "Are you Peter Houston?" So it's just there wasn't very many of us, but most of us have switched to other sports. Not many people stay on. I don't know why. They don't tend to hang on to their people. Not quite sure why the reason they don't keep people in the sport, but there's a real dropout.
Yeah. And so where were you competing, and where do you go to compete in the British champs, for example, in orienteering?
Basically it does a circuit, same as any other sport. They go to different venues, other people bid for it. Each year within Britain they had the British Championship rounds, they had Scottish Championship rounds, and then they had a 6-day event. It could be in Deeside, it could be in the Borders, it could be in Dumfries and Galloway. So every summer they had the 6-day event, and they also had a 3-day event that was called the JK, or Jan Kellstrom. Jan Kellstrom was one of these super fit Swedish Scandinavian guys who moved to Britain and set up this competition. So there was a 3-dayer, a 6-dayer, and then all the national rounds.
So many more questions.
Never
6
stopped.
days.
Yeah, 6 days. You competed for 6 days, and the lowest aggregate time, that was the winner over the course of 6 days. So it was always a big thing, but to have to peak 6 days in a row was never easy, or try and not get lost 6 days in a row.
I was about to say what kind of distance, but I guess it depends. It's completely up to you and then your skill.
Well, it depends. If you get lost, you run further. Usually around in circles. Yeah. But no, the distance when you were 13 was about 6k altogether. When you were 15, it'd be about 10k, and when you were kind of 17 or 18, it would go up to around about 12k. And that's a straight line. So when you add the up and down and going around obstacles like cliffs or rivers and trying to find a bridge.
Last question. I could ask about 10 more questions, but last one and we'll move on. How long do you have? You get the map. How long do you have to plan where you're going to go, even to get to go out on the ground and get a sense of it beforehand, before they tell you where the spots are? Or is it just, here's a map, go?
No, Ricky, you get about 10 seconds, you get your map handed to you, and you've got 10 seconds to get a compass bearing on and then start running. But you read your map when you're running, when you orienteer. Wow. As simple as that. Use a little thumb compass, and you read your map when you're running, so you never stop. It's just perpetual motion, so you get quite used to it. I don't know how to cope now with my eyesight. I now wear glasses, but at the time you could read a map on the move, so it seems strange looking back now. But
I said last question, but I lied because I got another one. Chasing people, or people chasing you? Do you like, get off me? I don't want you to follow me. You're cheating if you follow me. What's the story with that?
It's very similar to racing cross country or cyclocross. If you get somebody behind you, you pretend you're not tired and you try and force a gap. And if you can force a gap, that's fine. They bottle it. It's seeing whose bottle crashes first. So really, yeah, you can have some conversations with people, some pretty blunt conversations, but you have to pretend you're not tired, and you have to get that gap. And when you get
away
gap,
from people,
you can get away. And there are alternative routes, but it's all bluff. It's all
Wow.
good.
Wow.
It's good fun.
I can see you being really good at. So what year was it that you won? Or did you win it? How many
Uh,
times did you win it? And the British champs?
the British champs, that was in the 80s, so that was 85 and 86.
So you won it twice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
So it's good fun. I just really
So you
enjoyed
said
it.
it was rugby
Yeah.
that dragged you away from that,
hmm
and it must have been some pull, considering how well you were doing at that. What was it about rugby that pulled you in?
I think probably the camaraderie and the sheer nonsense. I think it's just the tactics, the
The drinking and the
camaraderie.
misbehaving.
Yeah, it was more fun. I think for a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old, it was more fun. When I started playing senior rugby. I don't know what age David was or you were when you started playing rugby, but I was a big kid, so I was kind of getting picked for the seconds and thirds when I was still at school. So it was quite funny, and then you were playing Colts rugby on top, but it was just more fun. It was just far more fun all round. You mentioned about the elitism with the orienteering. It started to get very serious and very geeky, and I never felt that way about rugby at all. You just mucked in and got on with it. So
And you played for a long time. We'll get into some of the stories along the way, but that was a long commitment to the sport. It must have pulled you in. I didn't really know you that had gone that deep in rugby, to be
yeah,
fair.
yeah, I played from the age of 15 really up to about the age of 38, and it was injuries that made me retire when I was 38. So yeah, it was just a huge big pull. But as you'll probably see from all the highlights there, it wasn't plain sailing. There's a kind of dark side to rugby and its injury,
Yeah,
especially if you're a large,
yeah.
inflexible person like I am. So
Yeah. So let's let's start getting into that. The first injury, you also were touring all over the place. Was that later on with the police?
yeah, later on
Yeah.
you have club tours and you'll maybe go down to England or Wales or occasionally Ireland, but the big tours with the police. I think I was never good enough to be semi-pro. I was a good club player. That was all I was. But the good thing was in the police, you got paid back in the 90s. You got paid to play basically.
Again,
Um,
I was in the army, so similar thing.
yeah,
Travel for weeks sometimes playing sport as part
yeah.
of the army kind of program. So this is the police is a big part of your whole life, and it comes through in some of the stories. But when did you join? And you joined down south initially, and then you moved to Scotland with the police.
Yeah, I joined the police in 1993. I was 23 years old. Graduated from Heriot Watt, just down the road from here, where I ended up living. Um, and I was just very, very unsettled at the time. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I'd always fancied the police. So it was pretty much I joined the police by accident. I've no family history. It was never a burning passion. I actually wanted to be in the RAF. I actually wanted to fly fast jets, but I was too clumsy. So I ended up joining the
Well,
police.
the rugby story, maybe you can back that up. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was a danger to myself and others, so that was quite clear, and it's still quite clear. But no, I joined at 23, and I stayed in the police till I was retired when I was 51. So I was very lucky, a really good 28 and a half years, and
And that
massive part of my
was that
life.
all in Scotland, or
No, I did the first 3 years down in Thames Valley Police. I worked down in Reading and Henley and Slough down there. So um, one beautiful town and two big, horrible, hideous, segregated, divided towns. So it was good fun. I was down there for 3 years and then transferred back up to Edinburgh
okay? And you were playing rugby before you joined the police, then,
before,
and your first
during,
significant injury happened before you were in the police.
yeah.
So talk us through what's going on at the age of 21.
Um, it felt like I tackled the goalpost, but it was just somebody sidestepped into me and I committed to the tackle. And next thing I knew, my shoulder was hanging off. So I broke my collarbone and basically just ripped my whole shoulder joint out. And pretty much I suffered with injuries to my shoulder for the rest of my career, and I still suffer now with my swimming with the
I was
triathlon. So
literally about to ask about swimming because
yeah,
here we are in Pentland triathletes. You're in your 50s, and the swimming with that.
yeah, yeah, it's hard going sometimes. It really is. It was quite weird listening. I remember listening to Warren's podcast where he described his training schedule in intricate detail. And I do this then, I do that then, I do this session here, I do
Spreadsheets.
that,
It's
I do that.
spreadsheets. It's okay. Yeah,
Spreadsheets.
yeah.
I looked at spreadsheets and looked at plans, but everything in my swimming or my running or my cycling's based on how much pain or how my shoulder's feeling at the time or how my knee's feeling at the time. So sticking to a training schedule, going to the heart rate, doing all of that, it's out the window.
The spreadsheet doesn't dictate, it's the body.
It's just by feel.
The body dictates
it's just by everything had to be done by feel.
Yeah. But you also did your knee. You just mentioned your knee, but you did your knee in a very early age.
Yeah, I did my knee. Well, it was actually when I was down in the police in England and ended up having to get an operation in my probation. So I had to tell them it wasn't.
So you're joining the police and you're already a mess from rugby in terms of shoulders and knees.
Yeah.
But you managed to get through medicals and things like that.
Well, I was still doing the fitness tests okay because I still had a reasonable degree of athletic ability. So even with an injury, you could still pass them. But I wore a knee brace for 6 months of my probation and I had to get an operation at the end of my probation. So I was pretty lucky. I think because I was still fit, they didn't realise how sore it was. I mean, it's fine now. You just get on with it. I'm very used to managing it now.
I was about to ask if around about 22, 23 with these injuries, if you regretted switching to rugby and not sticking with cross country and orienteering, but I know the answer because the doctors were telling you things and your attitude was slightly different.
Yeah, the doctors. It was a knee injury. Was probably one of the worst where I'd injured it.
This is in the early stage. We'll get to the later stages later.
This was around about 23, 24, and I was playing for a club called Lismore in Edinburgh, and I ended up with a really bad hyperextension of the left knee, and got a surgeon. Ended up seeing the orthopedic surgeon, and he said, "No, yeah, it's a real mess. I had to reconstruct part of my knee." He said, "Don't ever play rugby again." So I went, yeah, okay, I won't ever play rugby again. Walked out, and 3 months later I was back playing and continued playing for another 15 years. So I don't tend to listen to doctors too much, unfortunately.
There's a theme, and that comes up several times. Yeah. But we'll come back to that because there's a great story later about that again. But at this point, hockey starts to come into it.
Yeah, I thought I'd give it a go during one of my rehab periods. I thought I'd probably get injured more, but I just kept breaking thumbs and fingers, and it was great fun. And also there was another aspect because you could tour with the police as well. They had a very good social team that toured down to England and across to Ireland, and they were just good fun. They were a really good bunch. So I ended up playing league hockey for Stuart's Melville at a reasonable standard. I had no skill at all, but I was large and committed. So they kept picking me, which is fine. So I really enjoyed it, but I'd never really enjoyed it as much as rugby. So
it's a lot of bending down and a lot of getting hit in the shins and knees and kind of fingers, hockey sticks.
Yeah, it was good. It was good fun, and I enjoy watching my daughter play. But I don't think my back or my knees would thank me for playing hockey again.
Large and committed. I love it. But you don't stop. And actually, I'm seeing a theme here. The cross country. Not quite so fun and exciting. The orienteering, not quite so kind of team bonding, but you like the tours. You want Guinness to sponsor you, and you like the team kind of activity. I can see the thread that's starting to line up here. It's all starting to make sense. But you go back to rugby after hockey.
Yeah, I just wanted to play. That was all. I ended up as a sergeant at St Leonard's Police Station, and we had a couple of younger guys who came in that were quite good players. So, as is typical kind of Houston fashion, I managed to recruit them and bring them down to our club. And I thought, they're quite good players. They're quite a good team to play for again. So I ended up going back, and I lasted another 5 years. So that was a very, very good stage. I was still reasonably fit in my 30s and still enjoying it. Struggling to keep weight up. That was the only problem.
For the rugby.
Yeah, with the rugby, and family was on the horizon at that point. So yeah, no, it was very, very, very good time, but it was good fun going back to the rugby, but it kind of finished me off in the end.
And then someone said to you at work, there's this thing going on in North Berwick.
Yeah.
Do you fancy it?
Yeah, that was my friend Kenny Irvin.
And you're 36 at this point.
36, yeah. Kenny was a very good sprint swimmer when he was younger, a guy from Cumnock. He was my partner in the cars and just one of my good friends. So he suggested going along to North Berwick. So I paddled up and down doggy style up and down the pool a few times and thought, I can do it. It's fine. I can cycle. I can swim. I had a reasonable leisure mountain biking background, not road biking. I had to borrow a road bike. So we tried the North Berwick triathlon, and he crucified me in the swim, but I beat him overall. So he wasn't very happy. But we kind of went on to other things, and we switched. And then I just got the bug, I suppose. So we ended up switching down to the Border series, and then I moved to Balerno and met this bunch.
All right. Okay. But before we get to that, you didn't get tempted to get into water polo once people saw your swimming style.
No, it wasn't good.
You learned how to put your head in the water.
You think I'm bad now? You should have seen me 15 years ago. It wasn't a thing of beauty, Jim.
It would have been interesting going across the sea swim with your head above the water the whole way.
So, I probably would have enjoyed water polo. So I'm probably
to be fair, the team, I have played water polo, and given the theme and the thread you're on, and things that you've been drawn to, what did you say? You're large and
committed.
That is water polo. If you can swim, then you put those two together and you got it. It's a very kind of small gap between the two. You wrote an interesting phrase in here about triathlon after North Berwick. You said sadly hooked.
Yeah.
Why sadly hooked? That struck me, that phrase.
Well, it kind of takes over things. It does. What
do you mean? Look at us.
Takes over your life.
Taking over here.
Takes in the case of Frank, his bike shed, it takes over. So I think that's just the thing. It's all encompassing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what it's like. You get the bug.
No one here has ever had that happen.
No, it's just ridiculous. When it gets you, it gets you.
Right. Okay. That's what you mean. Okay, that makes sense. But that's 36, and rugby's still calling.
Yeah, still playing away.
After triathlon started.
Yeah, still able to play. You just kind of drop down a team sometimes and enjoyed captaining my team. But we had a couple of nasty injuries this particular year. One of them, actually not me. We ended up, I was captaining a team and one of my players broke his neck. He was a hooker in the front of the scrum and the scrum collapsed. So yeah, I was starting to fall out of love with the rugby at that point. But yeah.
But it did take A&E.
Yeah. Well, it was a New Zealand prop who played for Forest Rugby Club, a 21 stone New Zealander prop who, I don't know what happens, but he sidestepped at the wrong time. It'd have been great if we just carried on running straight, but I didn't think somebody that big could sidestep, and he sidestepped straight into my shoulder. So I ripped my shoulder joint out again, broke my collarbone
again.
And it was just a hideous mess. So I ended up at the hospital. Claire came into the hospital to pick me up just as the A&E consultant came in, and he read out my last 7 addresses in Edinburgh and told me I'd been hospitalised in all 7 of them playing rugby. That was my retiral injury. It was either a retiral injury or a divorce. So that was it. The last 7 addresses, and he wasn't pleased. And to be fair, neither was I, because I kind of knew the game was up.
That was it. Yeah. So finally, you've discovered triathlon, but rugby's had another go at you. But it wasn't the most brutal. It wasn't the end to the most brutal injuries, because Balerno still had a trick up its sleeve for you.
Yeah, that was the snow. The snow of, I think it was 2010. It would have been the really deep snow. Out still running at this point. Still managing
running in the deep
running in the deep snow, and I slipped, and it was a hyperextension of a left knee again. This time, the same theme again. I never learn. The first consultant said, "That's it, Peter. You need a knee reconstruction of your left knee now. The damage is severe from that." So I said, I wasn't very happy, clearly, because running was still a big part of my life. Still things I wanted to achieve in triathlon. So I got a second opinion, and he said, "Don't ever run again." So I didn't take it very well. I was really upset, because it was everywhere I went on holiday, every day you'd take your trainers with you, you'd go away somewhere, the first thing that would go in a suitcase. And to take that away, I didn't take it very well. I think it's quite safe to say I didn't take it well at all.
Yeah.
So that was a very low point.
There's some bits in that we'll unpack, but one of the things we asked guests to do is to send in some pictures. And these are all latter stages, no rugby pictures or anything, but this is a triathlon, this picture. But the thing I loved about this picture is it might be rugby.
Yeah.
And it might be cyclocross, but it's not, because we've got a tri-suit and we've got a cyclocross picture. But this seems to just sum up you basically like a pig in shit, just loving it.
Yeah, like mud. Simple as that. That was Lochore Meadows. That was an aquabike competition, and that was me just running from the bike park to the finish.
That's an aquabike, not even running.
Aquabike. So I wasn't even running. I was just running. I was just running from the bike park to the finish line. that was all.
I
So
love this picture. And by the way, it was November. I've just submitted an article to the Bologna and Curry News, which hopefully will run in the December, January. They asked for some pictures. I've sent 10 pictures in, so they probably only used one or two. I've got a little bet with myself. This picture is going to show up in the Bologna and Curry News.
thank you.
Just warning you and
Yeah.
getting your permission in case they run it before you see it.
I know where you live.
Yeah, exactly. I love this picture. Absolutely. I think it sums up everything we've just heard about you in the last kind of 20 minutes or so. So you've done your knee again, and you've been told not to run again, and this is pretty severe. But you weren't really going to take it, were you?
Well, to be fair, I couldn't run train, but I actually found it the only time I did try. I did try to do my physio. I did try to rehab. A knee replacement is out of the question because the first one has a lifespan, the way I live my life, probably about 7 or 8 years, and then the next one would have a lifespan of about 3.5 years. So I was going to stick with my old damaged knee rather than have a knee replacement. So I did try, but the only time I could run was coming off a bike, and that was with a knee brace on. So in T2, I would put a knee brace on and then just try and make my way around the course the best I could. And it was pretty much only a jog. So there was a real hit on my times, especially my running times, and that's been dropping down either time. But at the same stage, I was pretty angry about the whole thing. I was pretty upset. So I decided.
Yeah, you actually talked about being very upset.
Yeah, really upset. Yeah, because it's just that it was.
I mean, you're in your late 30s at this point, or early 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I had another 30 or 40 years of competing.
Yeah.
And I knew I would keep on competing. So I just wanted to get out of my system, which I suppose is the next question you can ask me.
Yeah.
How did you?
So you switched to aquabike.
Yeah, I switched to aquabike and I entered Ironman France.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Well, the thing is, my friend that I started doing triathlons with, my partner in crime, unfortunately developed cancer and died. So yeah.
So you've gone straight to that because I highlighted that. So let's just take it back a step or two. He came up with the idea to go and do Ironman France.
Yeah. Yes.
And were you training together?
We were. I lived down in Christopher, and he had a young daughter. I had a young daughter at home, so we swam together, and he always used to leave me behind. We used to cycle together, and I used to leave him behind, and we were both pretty awful and lazy at running. So yeah, we'd enter it together, but unfortunately he passed away
before the race.
Before the race,
while you were training together.
Yeah. So I was left standing on the start line, kind of going.
So you said you were underprepared, but tell us about getting there and what that was like. And obviously, there's a huge amount going on for you at this moment.
Good fun. Very, very good fun. I enjoyed the long rides. No spreadsheets. I enjoyed the swim where I could. Probably 2 sessions a week with PT. Didn't do any more than that. I didn't really have time. I think work was always busy as well. I think probably something we haven't covered is just the stress.
I'm coming to that.
The hassle of work.
Just one stress at a time. That's coming.
Just doing that. So I was probably hideously underprepared because I should have been following a decent think schedule or some decent training program, but I didn't.
You should have been doing cycle rides to power on the spreadsheet.
But I was managing it. I was managing it by feel. Yeah. Everything was done by feel.
Yeah.
And I was trying to keep my shoulder in one piece, trying to keep my knee in one piece, enough to compete in the race and complete the race and just enjoy it. And try and
did you say what your friend's name was? Sorry, I didn't.
Kenny Irvin. Yeah. So it's just kind of getting everything out of my system, I suppose. That's it. It was good fun. I really enjoyed it.
And the race itself?
Great fun. Loved it. It was
with this underprepared and not particularly well trained. Did you cope okay?
It was a big messy fight, and I like big messy fights. So it was a mass start, no waves. It was one mass start, 3,200 people off the beach in Nice. So it was
into the sea.
It was pretty much a washing machine. It was like
you said you didn't play water polo, but you probably did there.
Yeah, it was the slowest swim in triathlon history. I think it was about 90 minutes it took me, but that was because I was right in the middle of the pack and fighting away to try and get through. I mean, I was terrified before I jumped in. You kind of look around and you go, "What am I doing here?" But I thought, well, I can hardly back out now. There's no way I'm backing out now. I promised myself I'd do it. I was doing it for a reason, for many reasons, and I thought I'm just going to do it and compete and just try and finish it the best I could. So the swim was fine. It was really good fun. I really enjoyed it, but I was exhausted when I came out. The cycle at Nice is very hilly. There's a reason they moved the Ironman World Champs there. There was a lot of climb involved. And then we ended up with baking heat at the bottom, and then we ended up with a mountain storm at the top, where I've never been as cold on my bike. I had a road bike, which was a very good move. I didn't own a time trial bike. I used my old giant road bike that I knew I was okay on. There was a large descent where you come down from the Col d'Azay back towards Nice, and pretty much all the riders around me on time trial bikes were straight lining corners and crashing. And I was just weaving my way through them, getting shouted at for not slowing down. So it was an interesting one. Then the
mountain bike experience coming in.
And then I climbed off my bike and thought, oh dear. And that was where the trouble started. So yeah, I had no prep, no training runs for 2.5 years.
And now you're going to do a marathon.
And then I had to run my first marathon. So yeah, I was kind of wondering what I'd let myself in for.
There's various people all here going.
Oh, I know. So I started jogging, and I jogged between the feed stations, walked through the feed stations, filled myself with Diet Coke and bananas and cream crackers, and then jogged to the next feed station, walked through the feed station, and just continued that for 4 hours 40 minutes and finished the marathon.
4 hours 40 minutes. Oh my God, that's incredible.
So yeah, I don't know how, but I was it was 4 laps. It was pan flat. It was 4 laps.
A sub 5 hour marathon after all of that.
Yeah. So it was a really good.
You were a runner originally, but wow, you must have been digging deep into your past.
Well, I had stupidity and muscle memory on my side. I was okay. Yeah. I was okay.
You said in here about the satisfaction of that and how you felt from a sporting point of view at the end of that.
I think I did it to try and ease the pain of not being able to run again, and it worked. I'm usually disappointed with a lot of things. You go somewhere on holiday, you go, this is going to be great, or you see something, or you see a stage show or a band, and you go, that's okay, but slightly disappointed. I'm quite a disappointed person with quite a few things, but I wasn't disappointed after Ironman France. Everything I thought it would be, it was, and everything I hoped I would achieve and feel by completing it, I felt that way, and I suddenly went, yeah, that's good. It did its job, Jim. I don't know how or why it did its job, but I got it out of my system.
You said anger and frustration was out of your system.
Yeah, completely gone. So it was very good.
And there's anger at the injury.
Yeah, it was anger at injury and not being able to do things that you wanted to do and go a little bit further. I didn't think that I would be doing any more triathlons. I thought I would be finished a few years after that. I didn't know how many more years I'd be able to have the muscle memory and keep on running without causing too much damage to my knee.
So you've got all the bit about your injury and what you can and can't do. Then the Kenny situation on top of that. And while we're on that theme, let's get out the way. You touched on it a few minutes ago. Let's just explain to folks what your kind of main role was later on, and tell us how long you were part of the police fatality collision side of things.
I did about just over 20 years of it.
So you and I have spoken about this before, but just explain what that means apart from what it says on the tin.
Yeah, well, they're basically known as traffic cops, but they're now called roads policing officers. What happens is you do the fast patrol car work, so chasing the criminals around, chasing the stolen cars, hunting the drink drivers, hunting the disqualified drivers, any travelling criminals on the road. You find them, you catch them, and you put them before the courts and hopefully into the jail. But a more involved part of it, it became really involved for me, is we dealt with all the fatal collisions on the roads across Scotland. So because of my maths background and my physics background, at university I studied as a civil engineer, so I had a very strong maths and physics background. So I trained as a collision investigator. Then during the years I progressed through the ranks and through the training courses and became a senior investigating officer. So part of your job was going to the fatals, trying to reconstruct them. You would have a physical scene with no eyewitnesses, and your job was to reconstruct how did this car end up over here? How did this car end up here with this damage? How did this person end up 50 meters from the car? How did this person end up trapped in the car? How did this person survive? Who caused it? Who was to blame? Who was going faster than the other? Who had to be taken to court? Was it the person who had been killed who'd caused it, or was it the person who had limped away with a couple of scratches that had caused it? So it's try and give families and give I suppose the taxpayer and the courts a credible story and an evidence story. So I did that for probably over 20 years, which was great fun and really enjoyable, but quite heavy going.
Yeah, as I say, the heavy going bit, there's a bit that shines out for me in that.
Yeah.
And this is not a podcast about policing and work, or I could go off on a tangent quite easily there.
It is about therapy.
We're talking about
about
sport.
therapy.
We're talking about sport and what motivates us in sport and what keeps us going in sport. And I mean, that sounds pretty heavy going. And the big question is, how do you cope with that on it from a day-to-day, week-to-week basis? And to what extent does sport kind of help with that?
I think it just keeps you on a level keel. I think if you stay quiet and you build things up and you don't release the tension and you dwell on it, that it just does you no good at all. It does actually build up in front of you, and it starts to manifest itself in the way you treat your family, treat your friends, how you physically as well. You'll have stress at parts in your job, and you feel little eyebrow twitches and
tight
chest,
chest,
and you go, this isn't right. But I found that the combination of sport, first of all the running, and then the rugby and the hockey and the triathlon and the cyclocross and the mountain biking, I just feel the effort and the focus and the determination it needs to that, and the commitment, and it's just a complete break. You need to focus on keeping going and doing the best you can in your races and beating the person next to you, beating your club mates. Just that level of competition is a complete break, and I just found it worked for me, and it's worked for me all my life. If you have a bad day, it does help, and it keeps you on an even keel. I've lost it a couple of times at work with people who have had a swing at me or had a swing at one of my partners, and it's not a pretty thing. I don't lose my temper very often, but I found the sport just kept me on a nice even keel and stopped me going overboard or getting in any more trouble than you potentially could do.
Wow, a lot of emotions going on in all sorts of different places there. There's a big gap here. There's 10 years. Things must have got pretty steady between post Ironman France and then 2023, which is the next point we'll come to. But before we kind of cover off on that, I want to go back a step with all those injuries and highlight that at Pentland Triathletes, we have the Thule Award for the worst injury of the year. The namesake is sitting right behind me, Frank Thule. But I'm going to almost look over my shoulder and speak notionally in that direction to say I think we should introduce a like long-term historical Thule nomination award because that's some going over all those years to fight through all of those things that you dealt with on the physical kind of injury point of view. So talk us through this since 2014, after Ironman France, until kind of COVID or post-COVID. Did you just keep ticking over then?
Yeah, I just kept ticking over. I started mountain bike, cross-country racing, did the national series, and cyclocross kind of got me under its spell.
So I'm going to throw a couple of pictures up now before we get... I know where that is. I think I recognise where that is. Is that Loch Lomond?
Yeah, that's the Wee Beastie.
So that's the Wee Beastie. So that's a mountain bike triathlon. And again, no bike and no swimming. This is you with your you have got a knee brace, running again. And then you just mentioned that. Tell us about cyclocross. Yeah, we haven't touched on that at all.
Yeah, the cyclocross. Yeah, I love my cyclocross. I started racing probably about 12 years ago. I started cyclocross. I had one of the first cross bikes you could buy up at the Edinburgh Bike Co-op in town. It's all over all terrains. The laps tend to be about 2 to 3 kilometres long. Grass, mud, gravel, hurdles.
I'm going to say someone needs to have a word with the people who organise it, because they put it right across those barriers. I'm sure you're supposed to go around those.
Yeah. So yeah.
No, you'd better bunny hop them or carry them.
It was designed by Belgian road cyclists as a way of keeping warm in the winter. If you sit on a bike all the time during the winter, your feet get cold. But if you put obstacles in the way and you have to get off and run because it's too muddy or too steep to ride your bike, you get circulation back in your feet, then you jump back on. It was good interval training, so you're always stopping and starting, getting off, getting on. It's just cross country.
And did someone say, "Hey Peter, I know this place where there's a load of mud,
Yeah,
and people all kind of cycling and running around and getting really dirty," and you went, "I'm in."
elbows are good. Elbows work very well. So no, it's a really daft sport, but it's good fun. Scottish Championships are on this Sunday.
Right. Are you racing?
So I'm racing this
Sunday.
I've
Brilliant.
had two races so far this season. My early season was curtailed a little bit, but I'm now back racing, which is great fun. So.
Right. I think that's a link to the next subject, 2023. Your earlier season was curtailed because...
Yeah, 2022. About 2020, I started struggling a little bit when I was swimming.
I was intrigued by this. I've highlighted this bit.
We were doing lane swimming. You have the 5 lanes at the Tri Club, and I ended up swimming quite comfortably in lane 3 and sometimes at the front of lane 3. Then I noticed I was slipping to the back of lane 3, then into lane 2, and then I found I was gasping in lane 2. I kind of do weigh myself up against other people in the club, David, Warren, Craig, guys who I know were similarly athletic to me. And I kind of wondered why I was falling back. So I ended up having, same in the cyclocross, in the national championship races, there's 100 in each race, 100 competitors in the race trying to get their way over the hurdles. And I found I was slipping from about 20th place down to about 70th. So it just wasn't going very well. So I ended up with some blood tests, and they diagnosed that I had problems with my white blood cell count.
I remember you saying that, yep.
Tried changes in diet, a little bit of medication, nothing was really working at all. So I ended up starting my cyclocross races from the back of the grid. So instead of 20th place, I would just go to the back of the grid, try and see how many people I could overtake, but it wasn't improving at all. I tried everything I could. My dad had prostate cancer, so Claire suggested I go away and get a blood test. For what's called a PSA test for prostate cancer, and it came back as about 1% over where it should be. So a very, very low marker. The PSA is notoriously inaccurate.
And it can be misleading.
It was a tiny part over. So I ended up with 2 years of monitoring, but it started to creep up. So yeah, not the best. At this point, I had a high PSA reading, but I hadn't had a biopsy at this point. So my reading started creeping up. So they sent me away for a biopsy. And they found, in the words of the consultant, the lowest percentage and the lowest quantity of prostate cancer in any male he'd ever seen. He actually didn't understand how I was there, because he said it shouldn't be affecting you. How did you know? And so I explained the dropping down the swim lane. I explained dropping down the cyclocross races, and he went, "That's remarkable. Never heard that before. You've literally, I couldn't get a lower diagnosis than you've had. So you'll be fine, Peter. We'll just monitor it for 10 to 15 years and you'll be fine. You'll probably be too old by then and not need anything done." So I went, well, that's okay. Carry on, regardless. So I monitored what I was doing. I kind of tailed back on my exercise. I tailed back on my swimming, tailed back on my racing a little bit, and just thought I'll ride it out. But I wasn't really happy riding it out, to be honest.
It's extraordinary how earlier on we were joking about cycling to power and things like that, and taking the mickey out of Warren is here. And you're saying, "Oh no, I just do it by feel. I do it by feel." But here you are, getting into your kind of late 40s and 50s, picking up something from feel that isn't quite right, and
in my 50s,
and that's suddenly putting you in a medical checkup situation that otherwise might not have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm quite fond of my daft sports that I do, the cyclocross and the triathlon, because
and knowing your body,
knowing my body. If I hadn't been competing, I think my cancer would have spread. It did go a bit wrong. The reading started going up. I had another biopsy, and they found some nasty stuff that was growing. So back in April this year, I ended up going in for surgery. The surgery was a success. So I got the all clear 7 days ago.
7 days ago.
7 days ago, the all clear.
Woohoo! Here's the Guinness chair for that one.
Here's the Guinness
Go.
Then I kind of thought, well, what's going to happen here? I've got a second chance. So I ended up cyclocrossing 2 weeks ago, and I won my first race.
Fantastic ever.
So my first race back.
So it was anger and frustration before. Now it's just euphoria, and you're off like a rocket.
Guys who were beating me for the last 3 years, I ended up lapping them. So it was a really strange feeling. So yeah, I've had a couple of good weeks, a couple of good races.
And just to go back one subject quickly, I don't know a huge amount about this, but I have heard that there are some significant risks with prostate surgery. How did you balance that up and make the decision in the end?
There was no decision. No decision to make as far as I could tell, and the information they gave me. If I ended up going for some of the non-surgical options, it wouldn't have worked for me because you end up with problems if it comes back, whereas the word surgery is surgical. It gets rid of the problem there was. I was lucky; it was detected really, really early, so I had a tiny amount of it. It was nasty stuff, but it was so small they could actually take it out
was an option.
and be certain that they got rid of it and it hadn't spread anywhere else. So the early detection really saved me. So yeah, I'm turned into a bit of a crusader with PSA tests and annoying everybody of a certain age.
Well, as you, and we've also talked to Frank in an earlier episode, similar circumstance. I had a PSA test not long ago because of you two guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's well worth getting that word out there. But I was told it's unreliable and you can't really kind of read too much into it, and you've got to be really careful, and you can get misreadings, etc., etc.
So talking about protest as well. So I had the operation at the end of April, and before I knew I had to get the operation, I'd signed up to climb Kilimanjaro.
Oh yes.
With my daughter Mary. So that was a protest. So it was 7 weeks after my operation. Ended up summiting
Peter
Kilimanjaro.
rebelling against the system.
But I could have cancelled it, but I felt okay.
You didn't put that in your notes, okay. So I remember you doing that. So give us a quick overview of that trip.
It was reasonably straightforward, to be fair.
Walk up a hill, walk down.
Yeah, walk up.
7 days up.
5.5 days up, a day and a half down. I'd arranged to do it with one of my friends, but he pulled out because he was renovating a house. So good excuse. Before my really bad cancer reading came to the common knowledge, I'd already bought and I'd already put a deposit down on it, and the last thing I wanted to do was cancel it. And I thought it'd be a good target for me, just to try and get better and do it. I wasn't going to give up. That simple as that. I wasn't going to give up, and I wanted to do it, and it was something that I wanted to do. And with my friend pulling out, Mary had just turned 15 the week before, and she's quite a strong girl, so I just decided I'm never going to get a chance to do something like that with her again. So I thought, there's no way I'm not doing it. So it was kind of complicated to get permission and insurance to go, but
it was another fight, and you were up for it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's such a theme that comes through. You mentioned Mary, and you talk about family in your final kind of bit of the note here. And so how's your family been through all of your sporting endeavors and all of these challenges you've kind of got yourself through?
I think they support me. They know the character I am, and that's all. I think they know what I'm like, and I think they know that if they tell me I can't do something or shouldn't be doing something, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So they just stay quiet and support me quietly. I think that's the best bet. None of them really like coming along to my races. Triathlon's not a great spectator sport generally. Cyclocross definitely isn't, because it's during the winter and it's pretty muddy and cold generally. So I don't mind if they don't come along, but they support me quietly. Claire moans about the number of bikes I have, but which wife doesn't?
Yeah. So that was a leading question, because I was trying to get to the bottom of why you would choose the words "my family are great but demanding."
Yeah. There's a lot going on. You know, my oldest is across in Glasgow Uni now. There's always something that needs looked at. She needs some help with something. Mary's good at sport. She's committed to her tennis and her hockey and her netball and her scouts. So I don't have much time for doing the length of training that I would like to do. So I'm quite glad we've got more sessions within the club. It just gives me an excuse to go away and actually do some concentrated, organised training for a while. But no, they are. Claire, obviously, she's still a serving police officer, so she ends up having to work quite long hours and it's quite stressful. So yeah, there's still a lot of demands at home on me. I'm not getting a free ride just yet. It's not an easy life yet. So I think there's still demands. I'm now working for Transport Scotland, and it's a busy job. So I think there's still a need for that therapy provided by
To keep you,
triathlon and the cycling.
you haven't moved too far away from those same kind of pressures at work.
No, there's still a need.
Yeah.
And if you don't do the sport, you'll just end up telling somebody something you shouldn't at work. So you're probably better not to.
Yeah. So I think we're probably going to be able to pick this out from what you talked about. But what would you say is your sporting highlight and maybe your sporting low light over all the years?
Sporting highlight, orienteering, British champs, and Ironman France.
Yep.
Competing it really slowly, but just completing
it. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Kilimanjaro, that was a big 2 fingers up to everything
This year.
And I did it with my daughter. So yeah, it's been really good. It's been a really good fun. I think those are my highlights so far.
Okay.
But it's not over yet.
And one of the several really bad injuries probably being in the lower end of the scale.
Yeah, I think the knee injury and being told not to run again
after the fall in the snow.
Yeah, it's just not good at all. So no way I'm getting a knee reconstruction. That's not going to happen.
So let's wrap with future plans. What's up next?
Carry on cyclocross racing. Carry on with my
win
mountains.
more like you did recently.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Anyway, I hope so. Just try and get better. It's difficult to win in cycle races unless you've been cycling competitively since you were 10 years old. The only people that are left in the V50s in the top 10 are very, very good. So I aim to get near them if I can. But I think aqua bikes are the way forward. Off-road aqua bikes.
I might be seeing you there. Actually, going to have to have a wee word. I'm interested in off-road mountain biking and off-road aqua biking.
Yeah.
I haven't even had a chance to look up if it is a thing.
Every year the running gets harder and harder as the muscle memory goes. So it's pretty painful now. So I think I just need to try and find as many aqua bikes as I can.
And there is such a thing as off-road mountain bike, aqua bike races.
Yes, there are, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Good. Peter, it's been an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much. We don't know what's happening in the Denmark-Scotland game, but we're going to go and find out in a minute. But I think that everyone here would probably agree that I've certainly learned loads about you that I had no idea about. I'm sure everyone here has done. No surprise that there is just a pig-headedness that comes through in terms of your determination, and actually a real inspiration for someone like me who's been very injury-free most of my life, despite playing quite a lot of rugby as well, and only really recently having to fight the kind of issue of injuries being part of managing training and racing, and actually struggling a bit with it. But when I see and hear what you've been through, it puts it all into a completely different context. So thank you so much for your time. Really good to talk to you. Been looking forward to this one for a while. And you're to blame apparently for most of the people who are in this club. So keep that going. Thank you very much indeed.
Well.
Talk to you soon. All the best. Cheers.
Okay, thank you.